Tonight, things happen. How Donald Trump defended the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia over the murder of a journalist. From pariah to partner, Mohammed bin Salman was welcomed to the White House as a friend and ally. Questions about the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi were batted away.
He knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
My husband was a very transparent man. He was a great man and a professional, and he was a brave man as well.
That's how the widow of Jamal Khashoggi responded in the past hour. She's also demanded a meeting with the Crown Prince. Plus,
he called me a traitor for standing with these women.
And without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
A vote in Congress and that other news conference, how fury over the Epstein files has split the MAGA right. Tonight, we'll take you through all the action in Washington as the US president lost his cool in the Oval Office. And we'll show you the reconstructive surgery being offered across Europe, but not in the UK, with a special report on female genital mutilation. I'll be joined in the studio by a survivor who's calling for this country to do more to support women like her. That's all coming up on The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Good evening. We begin tonight with the man who is proving to be too powerful for the world to ostracize. One of the most influential men in the Middle East, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, was welcomed at the White House today. So, what is it about him that keeps successive US presidents coming back? Donald Trump joined in with a sword dance in Riyadh in 2017. Joe Biden described him as a pariah, then fist-bumped him months later as he tried to lower global oil prices. And to clarify, that last image was after the CIA assessment that the Crown Prince ordered the assassination of this man, activist and Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. This is the last time he was seen alive outside a consulate in Istanbul. He was dismembered and his body was never found. The outrage from back then has faded now.
You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about.
So if we go back to my question, what is it about MBS? Well, it's a couple of things: money, oil, and influence. And to be honest, it's not really about him. History has shown us that the United States is often willing to ignore human rights violations to further its own interests. Tonight, I've been speaking to Jamal Khashoggi's widow, who's angry that the world has forgotten him. You'll hear from her in a moment. But let's begin at the White House with this report from our US correspondent, Mark Stone.
It was quite the welcome. The mounted guard of honor, the music, all of it to usher in the prince who was once a pariah. A flypast too from the jets Trump now says he will sell to the Saudis. Because that is what all this is about. In a remodeled Oval Office that now almost resembles a golden Arabian palace, the focus was money, investment, trade.
You've agreed to invest $600 billion into the United States. And because he's my friend, he might make it $1 trillion, but I'm going to have to work on him.
For this transactional president, that's all that matters. The legitimate questions about a darker history are a distraction, unwelcome, hit the nerve.
Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the worst in the business. But I'll answer your question. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
About the journalists, it's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for, no real purpose or not in a legal way, and it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc., in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that, and it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
Jamal Khashoggi was a journalist, columnist, author and critic of the Saudi royal family. He was murdered inside the Saudi embassy in Istanbul in October 2018. His body was dismembered, and the CIA later concluded that the Crown Prince had ordered the assassination. In the years after, he was outcast. The relationship with the Biden administration was tricky. But all that changed with Trump's return and his visit to the kingdom earlier this year.
And so beyond that controversial moment, and it was awkward for sure, the president almost needed this news conference to focus on the economy, because this is a time right now that the president is feeling huge pressure from his own side on issues like the cost of living and of spending too little time on the home front. And so he needed to remind voters in America that having the Saudi Crown Prince here is a good thing, because Saudi investment in America is important.
The president's approval rating is the lowest it has ever been. And now his supporters in Congress think he's losing his MAGA way. On the face of it, images like this don't help. Mark Stone, Sky News, at the White House.
Well, in the past half an hour or so, I've been speaking to the widow of murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi about how the US president downplayed her husband's death. She's demanding a meeting with the Crown Prince and financial compensation. Just have a listen to our conversation.
I did feel great, the world and basically his colleague journalists remembering him. I did feel great by mentioning his name and remember his tragedy. And in same time, I was disappointed with the describe of my husband being unconversible man and unlikely man. And I would like to answer in this to President Trump. President Trump, you don't know my husband very well, and I'm willing to meet with you and share with you everything about my husband. My husband was a very transparent man. He was a great man and a professional, and he was a brave man as well.
Yes, Hanan, I just want to read what President Trump said about your husband, Jamal Khashoggi. He said, "You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing." When he says he knew nothing, he was referring to Mohammed bin Salman about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guests by asking a question like that.
If everybody realizes this is taking the freedom of asking and the freedom of a journalist away, and this is itself is shameful, and it will take me to some dictator country in Middle East. What is the difference at this stage? And my husband was not conversational man, or is unlikely. Even if someone doesn't like him, which is sometimes happened, doesn't justify the action of kidnapping him, torture him, killing him, and dismantle his body.
Hanan, US intelligence concluded that Mohammed bin Salman orchestrated the brutal murder of Jamal Khashoggi, and he was asked about this question. Mohammed bin Salman goes on to say, "It's really painful to hear anyone losing his life for no real purpose, nothing illegal. It's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia." He goes on to say, "We took steps of an investigation in Saudi Arabia. We've improved our system to be sure that nothing happens like that again." Are you satisfied with that answer from Mohammed bin Salman?
I'm not satisfied, and I really wish I have the opportunity to meet with the Crown Prince. First, to introduce the real Jamal to him, because I believe strongly he been misinformed about Jamal. And I'm asking now, there is an opportunity now with his visit. If he allowed me to visit with him, and I will do it, I will explain to him what is Jamal aiming and what Jamal view about him, and what is the real Jamal. And I will ask his help. I will seek his help to retrieve Jamal remaining body, for I can bury him in a decent, good way, like the Israeli family asking for the remaining of them family member. And also, I will ask for my right for compensation, financial compensation. They killed my husband. They destroyed my life. They use a spyware in me since 2017. They have to compensate me.
So you feel to this day that justice has not been served in any way for you, for Jamal Khashoggi?
Zero. Zero justice. Is justice accountability being taken in an interview verbally, and there is nothing happened after that to follow up. There is no action to show really the war, the whole world, the sincere apology and action being taken to show how we regret about this.
You've also asked for the Turkish President Erdogan, to return Jamal's electronic devices. Do you believe that will happen, or do you think that President Erdogan, Mohammed bin Salman, Donald Trump, all of these leaders have moved on from the case of Jamal Khashoggi?
Regardless, even if they moved on for any kind of motivation, financial motivation, political motivation, it's my duty to keep my husband's legacy, seek justice for him and myself, and persisting to ask. And I used all the term to ask for the devices, and I'm still trying. In fact, I'm looking for a brave lawyer from Turkey to accept my case, because all of the lawyers scared with intimidation from the government to open this subject again to bless the Saudi authority, which is I try to crack it down and try to get justice.
Well, that was the widow of Jamal Khashoggi, Hanan Elar Khashoggi, speaking to me in the last half an hour or so. Let's bring in Mark Stone, who joins me live from Washington. Mark, we're listening there to Jamal Khashoggi's wife. I mean, frankly, we've gotten all too used to these press conferences that take place at the Oval Office. You know, as Donald Trump once described the one with President Zelensky as TV blockbuster, this too was felt awkward and strained and tense. But for Donald Trump, he really did not want this one to go this way.
No, I mean, not a good day for Donald Trump and his relationship with the media. Not only did he dismiss the murder, such a brutal murder of a journalist, and appear not to agree with his own intelligence services about who carried out that murder. They believe, the CIA believes, it was ordered by the man sitting next to him, by Mohammed bin Salman. Not only that, but then when the question was asked about Jamal Khashoggi by Mary Bruce from ABC News, he scolded her, not once, but repeatedly on a separate question as well. I mean, that kind of gives you a sense of the state of things when it comes to his relationship with the media. But then I guess the bigger picture here is, as you outlined at the top of your show, the relationship through different administrations with Saudi Arabia. And now I think it is the case that Biden and Obama, they struggled. They realized they wanted to be close to Saudi Arabia, but they still struggled to be close to it because they believed that their values were important. Now, Donald Trump is up front. He doesn't care about Saudi Arabia's internal politics. He said as much in a speech in Saudi Arabia. You and I were there, where he said, gone are the days where we lecture countries in the Middle East about how they run their country. We just want to do business with you, is what he said. Now, he's doing it. He wants to do business for two reasons. One, because he believes it will make America great again, because there will be Saudi investment into America. We haven't seen it yet physically, but it's promised. And also, frankly, because he wants to build a few hotels, golf clubs and towers across the Middle East. And he is already doing that, although he claims there is no conflict of interest there. So as always, Yalda, Donald Trump is just upfront about what he's doing. And if you don't like it, well, to hell with you. And if you're a journalist and you ask a question about it, then you will hear about it.
Mark, as always, thank you so much for your analysis there. Let's get a broader view of the geopolitics at play. Bernard Hakel is Professor of Near Eastern Studies at Princeton University and Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute. Mr. Hakel, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. For Mohammed bin Salman, this very much is a comeback tour. If we think back to where he was 8 years ago, he was a younger prince, perhaps he was more inexperienced. He talked about modernising Saudi Arabia. In the course of the last 7 or 8 years, close to a decade since we've seen Mohammed bin Salman on the international stage, he has managed to sort of shift the focus of where Saudi Arabia is. So 8 years ago, we saw a number of the members of the Saudi establishment held up at the Ritz-Carlton. We saw he was, dealing with the war in Yemen. It's a very different offering from Saudi Arabia today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I mean, I think that he is interested in accomplishing certain things for his country. He is actually modernizing his country, and you can sense it, I'm sure, when you visited, that women are treated very differently today than they were only less than a decade ago. The religious police is no longer, harassing people and so on. And he's trying to diversify his economy and make it less dependent on oil. He also is seeking a U.S. security umbrella for his country because he lives in an extremely hostile region with great, wars raging all around. And he wants to build a strategic alliance with the United States and also build an alliance in terms of artificial intelligence, which he thinks is key for his country's transformation. I think he comes with very specific goals, and he knows how to play this president and how to, say things that please this president. But in that conference in the White House, he was very restrained and extremely careful and very very deferential and polite in how he engaged. It wasn't like the president, even in answering the question to that journalist from ABC.
Yeah, do you think that he was prepared to deal with the Khashoggi question yet again, or did he think that enough time had passed that perhaps the American media, the international press, had moved on somewhat from the case of Jamal Khashoggi and the fact that he was for a long time seen as a pariah leader?
Well, I mean, clearly, you're focusing on it almost entirely, so it's clearly still an issue for some journalists. I think for many other people, especially businessmen, if you see them in Riyadh, I don't think it's an issue at all. And when it comes to investments and arms purchases from the U.S. and all kinds of other deals, it's not an issue. You also have to think that, Saudi Arabia is crucial for resolving some of the key conflicts in the region. I mean, leaving aside, its human rights record, which is indeed atrocious, it's key for, ending the war in Gaza. It plays a key role in Syria. Now he's going to put pressure on President Trump to intervene in the Sudan to try to end that conflict where there isn't a genocide going on. So Saudi Arabia is a much more important player in the region than simply just its human rights.
And if we do talk about then the broader, things that he wanted to focus on, Donald Trump wanted him to focus on, namely the Defense Pact, that they're going to announce the purchase of the F-35s, the fact that you are talking about the diversification of the economy of Saudi Arabia, the AI deals that they want to bring in. Those are all things that are on the table. We heard there in the press conference as well that he wanted to invest in up to $1 trillion and pushing it up from 600 million.
Yeah, I mean, he said that, because the president wanted him to say that. But he was also very clear in another statement at the same meeting where he said that everything he is going to purchase has to directly relate to his domestic transformation plans. And that the chips he's buying, for instance, are key for Saudi interests. So I think that you will see whatever monies the Saudis invest in the U.S., they will be tied to projects, very specific projects in Saudi Arabia itself. They're not going to they're not going to give any handouts to the Americans, even though the President Trump might think that that's what's happening.
And just a question on the F-35s. There are those who are perhaps concerned about, the details of the F-35 being leaked to the Chinese or others if they are sold to the Saudis or others. Is that something that should remain a concern?
Well, I think it's a concern of many U.S. military analysts, the military itself. But this is a concern that I think is also shared with other countries. I mean, not just Saudi Arabia. I personally don't think the Saudis will ever buy F-35s for technical reasons. But the Saudis basically want to be part of a security architecture. in the Middle East that is American dominated and that brings protection, order, and stability so that they can get on with the economic transformation of their country and of the entire region. I think they've actually managed to convince President Trump of this vision of stability and prosperity that MBS talks about, and in which Saudi Arabia will be the central hub connecting Africa, Asia, and Europe to the rest of the world. So this is the kind of his vision. And Israel, by the way, is part of that vision, which is why a number of Americans are also on board with supporting him. So he's moved on to kind of a strategic and economic vision, and less a transactional one. Trump deals with him transactionally. He's dealing with the U.S. strategically.
Mr. Hakel, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the programme.
Thank you.
We heard that exchange between the president and a journalist from ABC in the Oval Office. She questioned his relationship with the Crown Prince, but he's also facing other questions at home about why he waited so long to release files related to the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Politicians in Washington voted to make them all public this evening after a public appeal from survivors, as James Matthews now reports.
This is who you're fighting for. This is who Congress is fighting for. This is who the House of Representatives are fighting for.
This was me at 14 years old.
I was 16.
16.
14.
Only 14.
At 17 years old.
They came to Capitol Hill with searing testimony, the center of this story.
What's the message today, do you think?
It's going to be a powerful one.
To the President of the United States of America, who is not here today, I want to send a clear message to you. I am traumatized. I am not stupid.
It could be your daughter. It could be your niece. It could be a friend's kids.
You didn't just make a small dent. You made a monumental impact.
Survivors of Jeffrey Epstein told their stories against a shifting political backdrop. Listen to the friend turned enemy of Donald Trump, the MAGA loyalist he now calls traitor.
He called me a traitor for standing with these women and refusing to take my name off the discharge petition. Let me tell you what a traitor is. A traitor is an American that serves foreign countries and themselves. A patriot is an American that serves the United States of America and Americans like the women standing behind me.
On a landmark day at Congress, the president was confounded outside and inside. This was the vote Donald Trump had long resisted. Republicans from his party backed a near unanimous vote to release the Epstein files. Across Washington, Donald Trump was welcoming Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince. If the Epstein vote was something he didn't want to see, it was the question he didn't want to hear.
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
You know, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert.
Back on Capitol Hill, Donald Trump wasn't the only former Epstein associate in the frame. What do you say today to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the man formerly known as Prince Andrew?
I do think that Prince Andrew does need to come and testify at our oversight committee, and that can be bipartisan. But I share Thomas's view that the urgency that the British people have shown in getting justice needs to inspire an urgency here in America.
This was a significant step in the politics of justice. In this modern American scandal, it won't be the last. James Matthews, Sky News, in Washington.
And James joins me live now. And James, as you were saying, I mean, this is a vote that Donald Trump resisted for a long time, and then he did this U-turn. There's pressure now on the Republican-controlled Senate to act.
Yeah, it was only when he saw the way the wind was blowing, Yalda, when Donald Trump made a turnaround, a 180-degree turn, and told Republicans to back it. I can tell you, Yalda, right now as we speak, this having gone through the House, in the Senate, the Majority Leader, John Thune, he is saying right now he's considering getting it to and through the Senate today. So it may just be that this bill lands on Trump's desk this evening. I mean, that may be too tight, but it's certainly on its way there post haste. And of course, Trump has said that he would sign such a bill. Then we get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what documents and in what form will they be released. There certainly will be a release from the Department of Justice. But of course, with Trump instructing this new investigation, there are concerns in Democrat ranks that he will use that to somehow limit the scope or limit the content with redactions and so on, with the excuse that it's all part of an active legal investigation, therefore full detail cannot be released. But it was quite the scene there, Yalda, I must say. Those survivors with that first-hand witness evidence, pictures of themselves, women who were 14, 16 when they fell into the clutches of Epstein and his associates. And apart from anything else, it raised the question, why has it taken so long for these girls, now women, to get to this stage? And they're happy that they are at this stage because they see momentum and progress towards justice. Because for them, it's more than politics. It's their lives. It's everything. For Donald Trump, it is clearly a worry. Myself, I haven't seen him as rattled as he was today, sitting in the company of the Saudi Crown Prince and yet finding the time and focus to berate and trying to belittle a journalist. I mean, a new low, I think, in the discourse and the way that media and politics interacts in this country, certainly inside the Oval Office. But, you know, amidst this talk of Trump weakened, having Republicans in his own party willing now openly to criticize him and pursue a different path, you know, he appears to be rattled after the votes of 2 weeks ago and so on. In his 10 months back in the White House, this is something of a pivot point. And there is talk of this presidency becoming a lame duck presidency. I mean, that may be overstating it, but I certainly think right now it appears to be a danger for Donald Trump.
James, thank you so much. You're watching The World with me, Yalda Hakim. Still to come, a special report on calls for the NHS to offer reconstructive surgery to survivors of female genital mutilation.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
We are under Israeli military restrictions in terms of some of the things that we can film, but it's important to be in there. What a slow drive for the president as he approaches his golf club.
4 more years!
Free wherever you get your news. I'm Mark Stone, and I'm Sky's correspondent based here in Washington, D.C.
Welcome back to the programme. We've got breaking news from the Middle East in the last few minutes. Lebanese officials say an Israeli strike on a Palestinian refugee camp in southern Lebanon has killed at least 13 people. So that's just some information coming in. State media report that the drone strike hit the camp on the outskirts of the coastal city of Sidon. The Israeli military says it targeted a Hamas training centre, saying that the site was being used to prepare an attack. We're going to focus now on a practice that affects an estimated 230 million women and girls around the world. Female genital mutilation, or FGM, is still carried out in 30 countries in Africa, Asia and the Middle East, mostly on girls under the age of 15. Reconstruction surgery is possible and is freely available on public health services in countries like Switzerland, but not here in the UK. Our health correspondent Ashish Joshi has this special report and a warning: it contains descriptions of FGM.
Professor Jasmine Abdul-Qadir is performing surgery. But to her patient, this is more than just a medical procedure. It's the most important part of a long journey to help overcome deep trauma inflicted on her as a young child. The patient is a woman in her late 30s to mid-40s. Originally from Somalia, she now lives here in Switzerland. As a young girl, she was subjected to female genital mutilation. We've been given rare access to film this FGM reconstruction surgery by Professor Abdul-Qadir. She's one of the world's leading experts in this field.
There are several types of female genital mutilation, so the tissues involved might be diverse. It can be the labia, the clitoris, and the cutting might be more or less severe. So there are different types of surgeries.
This patient has had type 3 FGM, infibulation. It's the most severe form, where all or part of the external female genitalia has been removed. The vaginal opening has been sewn shut, or the scar tissue has fused together after being cut. These cases require de-infibulation or reopening.
Voila. It means to avoid suffering when they pee, when they have period, in their daily life, when they study, when they work, when they take care of their families. It means to be healthy in their daily life. It means so to be socially healthy, happier. It means to enjoy sex with their partners. So it means a change of life.
Her vaginal passage was partially reopened in the past, probably during childbirth.
Sensitive nerves, but that have also branches of the cavernous nerves.
Today, she has chosen to undergo clitoral reconstruction.
We have patients that might not be interested in reconstruction, that they already feel well, sexually healthy, and other patients that suffer from severe trauma, that are unhappy with their body image, and so they will ask for reconstruction. Some of them will go for surgery, some others will not go for surgery. I think it's important to offer different possibilities depending on the needs of the patient. And as you said, it's a huge journey. Just calling to take the appointment. Some patients say, I didn't sleep yesterday. I have thought about this appointment for several months. It's only a few months ago that I decided to call because it's a subject that is taboo.
The World Health Organization estimates that more than 230 million women and girls alive today have undergone female genital mutilation across 30 countries in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. It's mostly carried out on girls under the age of 15. In 2015, it was estimated that around 137,000 women and girls were living with FGM in England and Wales. And between that report and 2023, FGM was identified in a total of over 87,000 attendances at NHS trusts and GP practices. And the real numbers are thought to be much higher. Unimaginable cruelty deliberately inflicted on young girls.
Every girl who came in came out crying, screaming. I didn't want to go in, but they forced me, and when I went in, she cut me with a blade. I jumped from the pain. All the girls were crying. I didn't want to, but they forced me.
This is one of Professor Abdul Qadir's patients. Jamila, that's not her real name, is still recovering after undergoing FGM reconstruction surgery last month.
I was angry because I was just a child. She had already made the decision, but I was angry, furious with her. When I was growing up, she was always around, and I confront her and asked her why. She said, it's our culture, we have to do it for the girls.
As a 6-year-old girl in West Africa, she was tricked by one of her father's wives. Jamila thought she was going to the market to buy sweets. Instead, she was dragged into a cutter's house where she was mutilated.
For me, honestly, it was exhausting. I didn't want to have to heal from it. Afterwards, they said that after 1 or 2 weeks, they would have a celebration, but I wasn't feeling well at all, physically, mentally. I always think about it. It's something that never leaves you. You think about it all the time.
Professor Abdul Qadir's team see between 20 to 30 FGM survivors a month here at Geneva's University Hospital. Not all of them will opt for reconstructive surgery, but the ones who do can access it on the country's healthcare system. FGM reconstruction surgery is available across Europe, including here in Switzerland, as well as in clinics in France and in Germany. But in the UK, the procedure is not available on the NHS, meaning many British FGM survivors must travel abroad for help. Campaigners say that must change. The demand for the surgery in the UK is growing. Juliet Alberts is a specialist midwife who runs a busy FGM clinic in West London, offering treatment and support to survivors.
We do find women coming to our clinic saying they want reconstruction surgery, and we have to say, sorry, we don't offer it here. Some of them will seek out going to have it done in another country, perhaps, which is obviously very costly. And some of them don't manage to get any support for that. It may be because they've got long-term genital pain, or it might be a body image concern. So women say things like, I just want to be whole, or I want to put back what was taken away.
A parliamentary committee warned that FGM survivors face shame and humiliation when trying to access care. It's called on the NHS to provide reconstruction surgery, echoing demands from midwives and campaigners.
In an ideal situation, it would be available to everybody on everybody's doorstep. But FGM isn't a problem in every part of our country, but it is a problem in certain parts of our country. And I think that we need to be able to prioritise those areas where the need is highest to ensure that people get the surgery and the support that they need as quickly as possible. The research isn't into the merits of reconstructive surgery. The research is into where the need is greatest.
Can we put a timeline on it? When can FGM survivors in this country expect to have access to reconstruction surgery on the NHS?
I would want to see that as soon as possible. I want GPs to have better understanding of FGM and reconstructive surgery. I want people to know that this is still an issue for so many women within our communities. And lastly, I want the government, and I think that they are now, taking this seriously and putting some action behind the words that we've heard for a decade now.
The Department for Health and Social Care told Sky News the NHS runs FGM clinics which provide healthcare services and emotional and psychological support for victims. We're also facilitating further research into the effectiveness of reconstructive surgery for FGM survivors through the National Institute for Health and Care Research. FGM reconstruction surgery cannot erase the violence or the pain, but it can offer something many survivors feared they would never have. And that is the chance to reclaim their bodies after a lifetime of trauma.
And Ashish joins me live now. Ashish, powerful reporting, some of those stories harrowing. The fact remains that tens of thousands of women in this country face this, are going through this. They just don't have support from the system.
Yes, and I think that's what really concerns FGM, midwives, campaigners. The support network simply isn't there. There was a scathing report into the treatment of FGM survivors by the National Health Service, and this was carried out by the Women Inequalities Commission, and we had the chair, Sarah Ward, talking about it there. Just not enough help for survivors. And the problem is, there is this treatment which goes a long way towards helping with psychosexual trauma, which is being offered on the continent. It's been available for 20 years. It's World Health Organization approved, and yet it is not available to survivors in this country. So when these survivors learn about this procedure, which they want to help them to heal and recover, they go to their support clinics and they're told, we can't help you with that, you're on your own. And then they literally have to fund their own trips abroad, which is very expensive, or they have to approach a specialist charity. But the problem with all of that is if you travel abroad, you're still on your own. If that surgery goes wrong for whatever reason, who's there to look after you when it goes wrong? Then you have to come back to the NHS in this country. There was a body of thoughts, obstetricians, gynecologists, midwives who were opposed to FGM reconstruction. That has now changed. They've shifted their position and they are calling for more research into it. But what I was trying to explain in that film is the research has already happened, the evidence exists, and it's proven to help these women to overcome horrific violence which has been perpetrated against them as children.
As you say, this was something that was approved by the World Health Organization, offered on the continent for 20 years. Why is this country so behind?
That's a very good question. It's behind because I think a lot of people would have thought that the full FGM reconstruction, the clitoral reconstruction, might be seen as a cosmetic issue and not an emergency intervention. Emergency interventions, if you're an FGM survivor, are available on the NHS, but not the full reconstruction. But now it has been proven that there is a strong connection between that full reconstruction and the healing, the psychosexual trauma that you've undergone as a child and carried with you into your adult life. This is a very important step towards reclaiming your body against that violence.
Ashish, thank you so much for all of your reporting, and you have written an online piece that is on our website, so our viewers can read that as well. And after the break, I'll be speaking to a British woman who fundraised for her own surgery. Shamsa Sharawi will also discuss her viral work online to end FGM practices.
She's preparing the ground to raise taxes.
The
budget, I've got to do the things that I think are right.
There are tax rises coming down the track. No.
You can't rule out further tax rises.
It's exactly what she's going to have to do.
She'll be talking about that when it comes to the budget.
We'll be talking everything money as the Chancellor reveals what's in her budget.
Goodness knows how it's going to play out if these tax rises are announced.
It's like a football final with only one team on the pitch. This isn't just a call to vote, but a call to remember. The freedom fought for by the African National Congress.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
A cyclone and 2 burst dams wiped out hundreds of generational homes.
This was the second dam that the floodwaters hit before it tore into Derna. We are in the heart of Nairobi, and we're watching as protesters were heavily tear gassed.
The sheer fearlessness and persistence of these guys is astonishing.
We help you understand the world with us. I remember going into the iconic Omdurman market in the heart of Sudan's capital for the first time since the war started. And this is what's left of it. Bullet holes through buildings, shelled balconies, bullet cases on the floor. I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories and the lives of millions of people. This is insane. This was a bustling residential area. So many friends who lived here. My most memorable interview was with a 15-year-old boy who'd survived being stranded on a migrant boat on its way from Senegal to the Canary Islands.
After 13 days, our food, water and fuel supply ran out.
I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
They call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News. Get the full story first. Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky News.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin. The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach.
This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard there from Jamila in Ashish's report. I just want to bring you another survivor's experience. Shamsa Arawelu uses her platform on TikTok to speak out against female genital mutilation. In a viral video, she shared what happened to her and her cousin when they were young girls in Somalia. And just to warn you that the video you're about to see contains graphic descriptions of FGM.
My cousin went first. Again, we were really excited. Yeah? Free. When they're free out of our own free will. When my cousin was sinking to the chair, it was like war. They all started grabbing limbs, holding her down, and then spread her legs wide open. And the first thing they did is they used something like this. They used a double-sided razor, right? The cutter, like this. And she cut her clitoris. She cut her labia minora, and she cut her labia majora. And then I had to watch her get sewn together. Then they tied her legs together, put her to the side, and then it was my turn. The cutter took that double-sided razor, cut my clitoris, cut my labia, cut my labia majora, and then sewed me up. The feeling of being sewn alive, awake, is something I will never be able to describe. As a 6-year-old child with no anesthetics, no painkillers, I can't even begin to explain. But that is female genital mutilation.
And Shamsa Sharawi joins me here live. Shamsa, thank you so much for joining us here on the programme. We were just watching that video of yours that went viral. It was viewed some 12 million times on TikTok. What goes through your mind when you watch that? I guess you've seen it so many times now.
I think it's just, I think the shock for me is how much information is lacking within the world or within society in relation to FGM. I think it's taken me 20 plus years for me to be able to get to a place where I'm comfortable enough to set a camera up and, you know, take a flower and a razor and depict exactly what I had experienced as a child. But it almost felt like I was providing this information or education to a world that had no clue how bad it truly was. And I was so determined after that to make sure that the 230 million women living today and those millions that have passed away as a result of their FGM are respected, they're honored, they are understood, and to ensure that they are supported and that they don't face the discrimination that I faced, the dehumanization I faced, you know, because it's living in a world that is ignorant about a topic, especially when you've lived it, is a very lonely experience. And I decided to use my voice so that survivors like myself don't feel so lonely.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, you've lived your entire life with this, and as you grew, did you feel that I need to speak up about this? I need to, you know, draw on my courage and bravery to be able to do it, because it is a brave move to be able to speak openly about something like this.
Absolutely, it's a very brave move. I know, I think a few months before I finally made the decision to talk about this publicly, I felt so much shame and fear of judgment. I thought I was going to experience social exclusion on both sides. I was afraid of the information not being taken well by my community and the Western world. It was just so much fear. But then I thought I could not, or I struggled to find somebody, you know, that was giving me the information that I needed to hear at the time. So I thought, okay, it doesn't matter how uncomfortable it may be, I've passed the most uncomfortable times of my life. You know, the being subjected to it, the constant infections and complications that come with FGM, the emotional turmoil. I've come past all of that, you know, and activism just seemed like not much of a challenge, you know. So I thought, this is my space, and I feel like activism really did choose me.
And of course, we just had a report about the fact that the reconstruction isn't offered here on the NHS. You have gone through that. You had to raise money yourself and travel abroad to do it.
Yes. I think that was one of the hardest experiences of my life for a long time, because it felt like I had to beg, you know. It was no different than going down on your knees and begging for help. I had multiple visits to the NHS, and I was told by a female gynecologist who did not care at the time about, you know, what I was going through psychologically, because I had type 3 FGM, so I was physically sewn together. And for a lot of people, that's not even comprehensible. But to live with it and to be told after a doctor seeing that and knowing that you are physically tearing like you're a piece of paper, be told no doctor in this country will touch you. I felt sick to my stomach. absolutely sick to my stomach. And I said, okay, so what option do I have? She said, none. She said, we don't know what damage there is underneath the scars in terms of the clitoris, because the defibrillation, they stop as soon as they see the urethra, to the urination hole. From the urination hole to the clitoris is untouched, and you have to live with that complication and be expected to be a good member of the community.
Well, we're really grateful that you've joined us. I have about 30 seconds. What would you like to say and what would you like to change? I'm so sorry, we're just...
The one thing I really want to change is reconstructive surgery needs to be available in this country. We are women, and a great number of us who have suffered and who need a better quality of life, and we deserve it.
Shamsa, I'm so grateful that you've joined us here on the programme. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Well, that's it from me and the team here on The World. We're back again tomorrow from 9 p.m. My colleague Anna Botting has the Sky News at 10. Good night.